All right. So welcome to the first call of 2020, the first Monday, 1st January, all those good things. So I asked last week, I think, what were just kind of a poll of what you guys were struggling with. What are some areas that maybe I can try to shed some light on or just touch on and help you and share some nuggets, share some tips. And then potentially what I want to do is like I looked back on the poll and a lot of you voted for all of them, which is totally fine because I know that the ones that I put on there are usually the ones that we do struggle with the most. But what I want to do is kind of share tonight and then kind of get some feedback from you guys as to is it specifically like what to invite, like what to say or who to invite, or is it like the flow of the invite, like the flow of the conversation? Because inviting is very general. So I'm hoping tonight, after kind of sharing a little bit, we can kind of narrow it down as to specifically what with inviting you guys are struggling with the most. And then I really want to kind of create I don't even know what you want to call it. I don't want to say a challenge. I don't want to say accountability, but just kind of like some habit tracking with inviting or whatever the area of the vital behaviors it is that you're struggling with the most. Ever since July, when I read, we did, what was it called? The Slight Edge. We read The Slight Edge together. And then from there, I went on and read Atomic Habits. And just ever since then, I've been really focused myself personally in all areas really on habits and tracking habits and really diving into the vital behaviors and tracking and realizing what my weaknesses are and what I struggle with, and then knowing that I'm listening to the 5-second rule right now too, and just how procrastination, and I think about like the one activity that I hate to do the most, and it's usually because it stresses me out, and it's not a big deal, but I have a feeling when it comes to inviting, it's just something that stresses you out. So you procrastinate it. And it's a totally natural human nature thing to do. But what I want you to think about with inviting is it's not natural. Unless you come from a sales background where you're literally like in buckle trying to sell jeans for commissions, or you're making cold calls for people to buy your insurance or whatever it is, unless you come from a background like that, and I don't really think any of us do, inviting does feel weird and it does feel stressful and out of nature. I know when I first started, like coming from the teacher background, it was weird for me to reach out, and but I guarantee, because that's just kind of how the nature of this works, over half of you that are listening to this call and you're on this team, I didn't know you before coaching because I randomly added you on Facebook, randomly sent you probably a horrible message, and just eventually down the road, we did connect. I did invite, we did follow up, and here we are today, right? So I'm going to continue to bring it back to that as an example of when you got started, how you got started, because I think reminding yourself of that story is going to help you get to that next level. Okay. So the first thing I want you to think about when it comes to inviting, and like I said, I'm not quite sure if we're struggling with what to say, the process of talking to somebody, who to talk to, who to invite, struggling to just make it a habit. There's all those different areas. So I'm speaking in general terms, and hopefully we can narrow it down a little bit after this. And I just thought of those different areas of inviting. Otherwise, I would have asked you for the call, but it just hit me right when we started. But I want you to think of inviting as a muscle. And inviting, coaching, your business, all of it in general is like a muscle. It is like your workouts. It is like your process to living a healthier lifestyle, to losing the weight, to quitting the bad habits, all those things. Inviting is a muscle. And because it's something that we're not natural with, we get all these ideas in our head of like we're being gross. There's so many other people doing this out there, all this stuff that affects your confidence, and that affects that stress level. So you procrastinate it and you put it off. My best advice when it comes to that is, and this isn't great advice, but just do it. You just do it. It's something I don't like to do it. I don't like inviting. I can't wait for the day where I can just throw up a post and 10 people want to join and 5 of them do. Like, I cannot wait for that day. But I'm not there yet, and none of you are there yet. So we have to put in all of that work and that consistency behind the scenes. And it's just something you just tell yourself you have to do it. If you want coaching to work, if you want to be successful, if you want to increase your income, if you want to help more women, if you want to find more people to help so you can stay accountable, you have to invite. Okay? It's a non-negotiable. It has to happen. And if the best way that you can do it is to think to yourself, whatever excuse you tell yourself, like, oh, I have nobody to invite, I don't have time, I'm tired, blah, blah, whatever it is that you're telling yourself as an excuse, ask yourself that if your boss, if you work at a day, like an actual job, I don't mean actual job, like you have a legit human boss, if they were to say to you, like, I need you to send out this message to 5 people or you're not getting paid today, would you do it? You wouldn't think about it twice. You would just do it. And so you have to treat inviting for your next challenge group, for coaching, for your $40 promo pack, whatever it is, you have to treat inviting the same way. All right. And it all starts up here. It all starts with your mindset and it starts with your confidence. And I can't give you any tips on that, except you've got to have positivity flowing through your ears. So one of my things that I do, and I think I've told you guys this before, is another thing since July, really, no, I take it back, since like October, I've really upped my personal development. Up until like it's 7:30 and I got to get my kids going out the door, I have one AirPod in and I have something playing in my ear from 5 a.m. to 7:30. So 2.5 hours, I either have my Casting Crowns Pandora station, I have Grant Cardone, or I have Mel Robbins, or something in my ear flooding me to get ready for the day. And then if you struggle when you sit down to do your invites, find your power song, find a song that you are just like into and have that go on repeat. One day over Christmas break, I was really behind on my messages, and that's my struggle, is emptying my messages, emptying my inbox. I get that stressed feeling, and so I procrastinate it. So what I did was I found the song that's my jam right now. Like, I don't know the words. I just start dancing. I just start moving to it. I pulled it up, I put it on repeat, and it probably played 20 times while I was emptying my inbox, and I just kept going. So when you're going to send your invites, play a song that pumps you up, play a song that gets you excited, that you just feel like whatever they say, it doesn't matter. And then here's the other thing I do. When I send my invites, if somebody responds right away, I shut it. I don't do that. I don't combine like responding to messages and inviting. I keep those chunks separate. And that's because I want to focus on my energy on inviting. And then if I need to take a step back, and then I want to focus on answering messages. I try not to combine the two. Okay. But if that works for you to send some messages and then respond, and send some messages and then respond, do that. But for me, I keep them separate, because to me, they're two separate tasks. They're two separate things. And I want to get all my invites done at once. If it is that you're struggling with who to invite, your invite flow, I'm going to ask that question and then address that if it's a different thing. But right now, I guess I'm kind of tying into more of the confidence type of thing. But if you're struggling with who to invite, that can kind of tie into the power hour, and I can go into that on a separate call. One thing that I've learned, because I go in spurts. 1 month I will be like an inviting ninja, and I will send out 500 messages a week. Like, that's an exaggeration, but kind of. And there are some months where like I will just send out 10 a day. So like 50 to 75 during the week. And what I've found is you need to find a number that you are comfortable with, but more so than that you can consistently do every single day and keep up with follow-ups. Okay. So what I mean by that is 9 times out of 10, somebody does not respond to my initial invite. 5 times out of 10, they respond to my follow-up message. So what I mean is if you sit down tonight and you send out 100 invites, come Thursday or Wednesday or Friday, when you need to follow up with those 100 people and invite 100 people, can you do that? Do you have time on Thursday or Friday to message 200 people? Most of you, I'm guessing not, especially if you marked that you struggle with inviting, okay? But if you message 5 people today, and on Thursday when you have to follow up with those 5, plus invite 5 more, can you send out 10 messages on Thursday? If you're working from a list, it literally would take you 2 minutes, right? So it's not so much that I want, it is a numbers game. And we used to say all the time, for every 10 messages, 1 person will be interested, 1 person will say yes, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's accurate now. I really, really don't. But I don't want you to get focused on that because that doesn't matter. What matters is if you show up for the rest of January and invite your number every single day, consistently, you will see success, okay? It might not be what your initial goal was. It might not be as high as how many people eventually say yes, but I guarantee you, you are consistent in inviting 10 people a day, 5 people a day. It's got to be at least 5 though. It has to be 5. I mean, it's got to be 5. I'm saying that's your minimum, okay? Minimum is 5. I'm just throwing that out there. But if you can consistently show up and invite 5 people a day for the rest of January, I guarantee you're going to have a couple things. You're going to have conversations going, which is going to build up that confidence, it's going to build up that muscle, because the more you do it, the easier it will become. It'll become a habit. It'll become a routine. You'll build up your confidence. You'll have momentum. How many of you are sitting here listening to this and you're struggling, but you look at November and December? How many invites did you send in November and December? Okay, can you give me a number off the top of your head? How many invites you sent out or how many days you sent out invites? Did you send out invites on November 30th? Did you send out invites on December 26th? You know, did you show up every day in November and December and send invites? Okay, so that's the first thing I want you to do is decide what number you can do, what number you can commit to, and commit to doing that number every single day. Now, I will say I do better when I know I have a challenge group that's starting, when I have something I'm inviting to. And I sat down this weekend, actually the weekend before, and I planned out January. I said, okay, I want to run a nutrition group, but bar's launching right now, so I want to launch bar, and then I want to focus on nutrition. I want to focus on trying to bring that back into focus. So right now, I'm finishing up my invites for bar, and then I'm going to start jabbing and talking about nutrition and inviting to that group as an option. Who am I finding to invite? The people that are watching my stories, people that are liking my posts. And then I'm working from my funnel of who has added me back. I'm trying to grow my network, adding friends on Facebook, messaging them, and then inviting them throughout that funnel, throughout that process, okay? So that's who I'm inviting, people that are watching, people that are liking, people that are answering polls and things on my stories, and then going through that funnel list, okay? So that takes time, and I will that's separate call. I don't want to bleed those two together if that's something you're struggling with. But looking now, if you're struggling right now and not getting a lot of conversations, think back to December, think back to November. Where were you? What conversations were you having? I will just be honest. The start of January right now has been the best start to a month I've had since September, honestly. And I think it's just because of putting in a lot of work in November and a lot of work in December and sending a lot of invites and planting a lot of seeds. So you have to decide what number you can commit to and commit to that every day, no matter what. Make it a non-negotiable. Do it daily until it's a habit, until it's something you don't have to think about. And if you are procrastinating it because it stresses you out, because it makes you feel like how Mel Robbins says, like, it's human nature, but if it makes you feel that way, then put it first. Do it first. If it's something that you dread doing, do it first. And on my busy days, the days that I know I have a small chunk of time to work, that's the first thing I do. Is I will, sometimes even before I work out, I will send out my invites quickly so I can have it done. So I don't have to worry about it anymore. So it's done, and then I can just move on with my day and answer messages as I need to in those blocks of time. But making it a habit. And one thing that what I want to do after we figure out where it is exactly you guys are struggling the most with invites is I do want to kind of, like I said, I don't want to call it a challenge. I don't want to call it I just want to call it a habit tracking. So like if it's like your invite funnel is what you're struggling with, every day you send out your invites, you crush off a box, and we try to get to 60 days in a row of doing that activity and accomplishing that. But like I said, I think I want to try and figure out where it is specifically you guys are struggling with the invites before we get to that. But the last thing I wrote down really quickly that I wanted to make sure to touch on was that inviting. So people that are watching your stories, people are commenting, liking your posts, going through your funnel of who you're inviting. That's really the back end. That's the behind the scenes, the grunt work, the unsexy things that you have to do for this business. And like I said, it has to be a non-negotiable. Like, I know that it's something you're struggling with, and I know it's something that you don't want to do, or you're unsure of how to do it. But I started officially coaching in July of 2015, and I have never, ever gone more than a day or two without sending some sort of invite to somebody. Okay? I've never stopped inviting. I've never skipped inviting. I've been pregnant. I've been in the hospital. I've been like all those things. I never stopped inviting. At some point, I was still reaching out to people. And the front end of that, though, is your posts, is your social media, is what you're talking about, is what you're sharing about. So, like, talking about bar, it's, yes, it launched today, or it's open, or whatever. That doesn't mean it has to be over. Maybe you want to set January 20th as a day where you're going to start a new round of people, and spend the next 2 weeks talking about it consistently and talking about how you're enjoying it, how you're doing it. That's one thing I regret, is when Coach exclusive window opened in December, I really regret not taking those 10 days and doing those workouts. When Morning Meltdown came out, that was one thing that was really helpful for me, was doing those workouts, showing it, talking about it, being proof that it worked. And I didn't do that with bar. And I regret that. So take these next 2 weeks, do the first 2 weeks, the first phase of bar, share about it every day, talk about it every day. Me personally, I started on January 1st. I've had more people asking me about bar since the 1st than I have the entire month of December, all right? Because I'm sharing it, I'm talking about it, I'm showing the moves, I'm talking about how easy it is to modify, how it's for every person, et cetera, et cetera. So what I was getting at is the inviting, the things that you don't like to do, yeah, they're not fun. They're not sexy. You watch coaches on Instagram on their stories, they don't sit down and do a story and say, hey, I just invited 20 people today. Like, I love my job. Nobody talks about that because it's not the fun part. But every person does that. All right. Everybody has to invite. Like I said, some people, yes, they can throw up a post and get 10 people interested. Like, I can't wait for that day, but that day's not here for us. So we still have to put in the grind. You still have to put in that work. But the front end is your social media. So why I wanted to mention that was because last week, what I did for my invites was everybody that I'd seen watch my stories about bar, liked a post about bar, I sent them a message and I said, hey, not sure if you've seen my latest post about our bar program, but da-da-da-da. Because I know they liked the post. I know they watched the story. So strategically planning both of those things, planning your invite around that conversation. And those kind of invites are easy because they're watching your stories, they're liking your posts, they're seeing what you're doing. That's a inch of an open door to reach in and say, hey, you're watching this. Like, are you interested by chance? I sent that last week and I had 5 people message back and say, yeah, I am interested. Okay. I sent more than 5 messages, but I had 5 people message back that they were interested. Okay. So the two go hand in hand, but it really, yes, like the grunt work, and it's something you just have to commit to every single day. You have to make it a non-negotiable. It has to be done or you're not going to move forward. It's just as simple as that. When I first got started, yeah, I could throw up a transformation post and have people were reaching out to me. I didn't have to start inviting hard until a week in when it was done and over. It was old news. But I started posting right away and I kept posting. And even now I could throw up a transformation and get nothing, no messages in my inbox. Sometimes it's the most random post that gets somebody interested, but it's one every 2 weeks. Okay. So you've got to kind of correlate what's coming up, what you want to talk about, and kind of intertwining it all together. So one thing I've been trying to do is every day on my stories, trying to add in a call to action for joining a group, whatever it is, something along those lines. Obviously, it's been bar that's been happening, so I've been trying to drop a, if you're interested, a poll or whatever. But I've also been trying to do some sort of engagement question, so that could be a poll or that could be like give me some advice or whatever, some type of more engagement type of stuff. Just trying to get more engagement, really, but also trying to tie it into what it is I'm trying to talk about. So like I said, I'm wanting to maybe run a nutrition focus group towards the end of the month. So starting tomorrow, I'm really starting to jab. I have it all written out. I planned it yesterday. Starting to jab about nutrition. And you better bet your butt that every person that likes and comments and messages me about a question about nutrition, I'm letting them know, hey, I'm going to run a nutrition only group. Like, would you be interested by chance at all? All right. So I might have one person that decides they want to do this nutrition group, but hey, I'm going to reach back out to all my old 2B mindset people, all my Ultimate Portion Fix people, and just try to come at things with a new spin. All right. So decide on the 20th, what kind of group do you want to run? What's something that you could maybe spend the next 2 weeks jabbing about, inviting about, and talking about? If you hate nutrition, do not run a nutrition group. Okay? If you struggle and you hate it and you dread it, do not do that. Because pick something that you are passionate about, that you enjoy, that you can spend 2 weeks talking about, you'll get excited. Because if you hate nutrition, if you hate 2B mindset, but you're like, well, Kylie's doing 2B mindset, so I should do that. If you're sitting there thinking that, good luck. You're going to have nobody, because you're going to be like, hey, so even though you might send the same message that I send, they're not going to feel it. They're not going to feel that from you. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to pick, maybe Transform 20 was your favorite program ever. Favorite program ever. Awesome. I want you to start a Transform 20 group on the 20th, and I want you to just post about it, jab about it, invite to it like crazy. All right? Whatever it is. By the way, I had in my mind I wanted to do a nutrition group before I even knew 2B Mindset was on sale. So kudos to that working out. But pick something that, and maybe it's bar. Maybe right now you're like, I am loving bar. Perfect. Keep talking about it. Keep jabbing about it, and open up a new group or add people into the group we're doing starting on the 20th. Okay? All right. So that was what I had. That's what I wanted to kind of touch on. I'm going to upload this recording, and then I'm going to post in the group thread those 5 options as to what specifically it is within inviting that you're struggling with. Okay? All right, you guys, have a great night. Thanks for hopping on and watching the recording, and we'll talk soon.